Every time the crisis in the Middle East is framed like this as a holy war, it does something specific. It hides the financial architecture from public view. This framing makes the war look like a product of an irrational belief system, when it isn't. It's the product of war manufacturing. This whole war and this far-right ideology are the product of APAC donors, dark money chains, paid pastors, and the settlement investment funds. The people at the top of these organisations are not confused about eschatology. John Hagee is an American televangelist with an annual salary of at least $1 million a year and a sports complex named after him in the West Bank. He has given millions in donations to Israeli causes. Leonard Leo controls the Marble Freedom Trust as its sole trustee. Leo co-chairs the Federalist Society and is the person most responsible for appointing the current Supreme Court's conservative majority. And firms connected to Leo were paid over $100 million by conservative nonprofits between 2016 and 2022. John Gray, the president of Blackstone, and Mark Rowan, the CEO of Apollo Global Management, regularly write seven-figure checks to APAC. These are people who would identify themselves as rational financial actors, not religious extremists. They are using religious language as the public face for extraction capitalism because it's easier to manipulate and mobilize people with religion than it is to convince them that predatory capitalism is in their best interests. Pretending to be a church gets them donations that are tax exempt and makes the whole thing look noble. But if you follow the money, it is incredibly obvious that theology is merely a wrapper. So I have gone the whole way back to dig this all the way up and see where Christian Zionism came from. If this runs across multiple parts, you know the drill. And if you can support me at buymeacoffee.com/AliMacForever, it's your tips that keep this going and keep me working independently. Dispensationalism is the modern evangelical belief system. It is where Christian Zionism comes from. It is a Protestant system for reading the Bible that insists on a consistently literal way of reading prophecy, especially when it comes to Israel. This didn't exist before 1830. It was invented by a lawyer, John Nelson Darby, an Anglo-Irish lawyer turned minister. He developed this new system, which gave the modern state of Israel a separate, essential role in the end of the world. According to Darby, Jews must return to the land of Israel before Jesus can return. He wrote in 1830 that wars in the Middle East are part of a divine plan and supporting Israel is theological obligation. This is George Wigram. His father was Sir Robert Wigram, 1st Baronet. He was a merchant shipbuilder who ran the East India Dock Company. He also sat in Parliament as a Tory MP. He is described as one of the greatest importers of drugs in England. Wigram's family wealth came directly from the East India Company. When his father died and he inherited all of his East India money, he used that money to set up the Plymouth Brethren. He spent the 1830s financing the establishment of new assemblies in London. By 1838, he had established enough London gatherings that he decided to write to Dublin. So he writes to Derby and proposes a coordinated structure. The founding cell of the Plymouth Brethren was a peerage operation. It consisted of John V.C. Parnell, who paid for the first public Brethren room on Ainger Street, and then became the second Baron Congleton. His father was Henry Parnell, a senior Whig politician and reformer who sat in cabinet. He also co-financed the 1830 Baghdad missionary expedition. British mainstream history frames this as these guys bringing the printing press to the Ottoman Empire. No, this is a baron sending human resources into a strategically critical region just 1 year before Muhammad Ali's Egyptian army marched into Palestine. Another founding member of the Plymouth Brethren was Francis William Newman. His brother was the Cardinal John Henry Newman, and both of these men were in the original cell, and both of these men went on that expedition to Baghdad. And he led the Oxford movement, pulling the Church of England back towards Rome. Darby went to Trinity. Wigram went to Queen's College. The others were at Oxford. In 1820, all of these universities were directly feeding the colonial office. These prestigious universities did nothing but spit out bureaucrats for the East India Company. So, dispensationalism is not a grassroots religious revival. It is empire money. This Christian Zionist movement was funded by East India Company shipping and cabinet level peerage, and they were simultaneously building a separatist theological infrastructure in Britain and dispatching missionaries with printing presses to Baghdad at the precise moment that the Ottoman Empire is being destabilised. Weird. This is the British scrambling to secure that oil route to India. Christian Zionism, and Zionism in general, has never been a religious movement. This is a capital system. The framing of the US-Israel attack on Iran as a religious war driven by fanaticism and end times delusion is itself a form of propaganda. Very, very old propaganda. It makes the capitalist extraction system look irrational, and you cannot dismantle irrational systems simply by following the money. And that's exactly why the religious framing is still useful to those who don't want their money followed. The congregation is not the driver. They are a captured population. They are absorbing this ideology that is produced by capital investment in media, publishing, and institutional church infrastructure going back to the 1830s. Their theology was designed and distributed by the British Empire. It manufactures their consent and extracts their donations. It's been sold to them aggressively. And the system doing the selling has traceable financial nodes. And it's those nodes that need to be investigated, pressured, taxed, and exposed. The next video, I'm going to talk about how in the 1930s, corporate America latches onto that as anti-New Deal public relations. And that is the direct ancestor of what we see today. Before I go, I just have one more peer to put on your radar. This is Lady Theodosia Wingfield. She owned the Powerscourt estate, the 47,000-acre estate in County Wicklow. She hosted and funded the 1831, 1832 and 1833 conferences on dispossessionism. And her conferences used the same template as Henry Drummond's did. Henry Drummond was a partner at Drummond Bank, the private bank that would eventually become NatWest. He toured the Holy Land and bankrolled missionary operations across France and Switzerland. And he funded end times conferences at his Surrey estate for nearly a decade. He personally paid to build the churches and spread the ideology across Europe.